these props are, you know,
Oh.
and you're exploring, trying to find the monster, and you see these broken props, then you know who's been through there. So it's kind of like an alternate, you know, way of tracking as well.
So, but it's following the same tracking rules. It's just introducing a few different ways to see that.
Exactly.
If we look, I mean, there's like it. The funny thing about Evolve is that when there's stuff going on and you're fighting, the last thing you're doing is going, oh, look how pretty these blocks are, and
Right.
oh, that's such an interesting vehicle right there. Well, like when you're spectating, you get the chance to sort of appreciate like how cool this is, and it does feel very different.
Yeah.
Is this technique? As far as our biomes go, this would be desert or forest, or is this sort of outside of that because it's
Well,
such an enclosed space?
when we were designing these maps and we started talking to the environment artists about how to art these, our natural instinct was to use the same process we used to art the other maps as far as defining biomes. Like if you take let's see which map would be a good example from
Man, those, just while you're thinking about that, the support jukes on that last round were hilarious. It was like just missed him with the rock, and that was great. Sorry. So,
no, it's
carry
fine.
on.
But you know, when we decided to try to put biomes into this map, you know, we thought, well, it's a mine.
Right.
I mean, you don't have forests, you don't have all the elements that we used in the other maps, you know. So we kind of we decided to set that aside, the biome thing, and what we did in the mine instead was each of the spokes has its own thematic theme to it.
Oh,
right?
that's
So
very cool.
the one that the end match you just saw there, with the monster one, that's the quarry where all the materials brought out and ready to be taken to the foundry. And so that one has an outside-inside feel. It has these two large rooms with a central corridor where they store all this ore deposit getting ready to take up to the foundry. The other two have their own thematic, you know, looks to them. One was kind of the wooden mine feel that you're comfortable with knowing, you know, seeing in all the pictures. And then I wasn't paying attention to see if they went through the grotto, which has no man-made elements. It's kind of an untapped aquifer, if you will.
Yeah, I don't think we saw that one as much as the
Maybe we can
wooden
get them
one,
to,
but yeah, I'm
to try
sure
to
we
go
can
through that.
convince them to check that out in the next game.
It's you know, each area plays really, really differently, and that's something that we really tried to hammer home on these maps. Is we didn't want it to feel like every area accommodated every tactic.
Right.
You know, we don't want it to feel like every area is going to play the same. So, for instance, you see the monster here. Let's actually take a look and see which way he's going to go. So.
Oh. Okay, sorry. It looks like we're gonna jump in with
first.
the hunter so that we can get a kind of a bird's eye view of this map as they come into it. But we can.
Interestingly enough, though, the monster has chosen the grotto. So once we switch over, you guys will get to see that.
And how does that affect wildlife? So, I know we saw a couple megamouths. Will those be limited to those areas?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Each we'll call them biomes just for the sake of language. Each of these three biomes have their own. They're utilizing the known wildlife that you know, but they're very, very restricted to that area. So once you get map knowledge, you'll know that the tyrants are in the grotto and that the dune beetles are in the mine area, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So we're seeing venom hounds or reavers?
Yeah, so this is the grotto, and the wildlife in here is going to be the tyrant in the pools. The venom hounds are going to be on the sides of this area. So if you look at the mini map, the monster is currently in the center. The two extreme sides, the top and bottom, that's where you'll find the venom hounds.
Oh, and there's the tyrant.
Exactly, there's some
Is he going to
locations
play
for
with the
tyrants.
tyrant? That's not a good idea. It's a little early for that, Kraken.
But you can see that the visual theme for this area is much different than the one that you saw previously where the monster won.
Well, because we've got stalactites in here, and it is very. I like the grotto as a name. It seems very appropriate. Well done. It's got again a very different feel even than other parts of the same map. So, I think this will be a popular one just because there is so much variation. I think, you know, on different maps you find areas that maybe are more beneficial for hunters to fight in, the monsters, and you want to do what you can to force the fight in the area that you choose. So
and one of the unique things about this map is that it goes so right now you're witnessing combat in this kind of big bowl area in the grotto, and so there's lots of space, there's cool little ledges, there's places for the monster to hide around if he's taking too much damage, places for the hunters to set up camp and to plant traps. But just off to the sides, it starts to narrow down and it gets into these smaller nobular areas and more tunnels and tighter corridors. So just imagine playing as Behemoth or playing as Goliath, these brawlers, the guys that get in your face. The hunters don't have anywhere to go. If you can get them in these areas, these small tunnel-like areas, you can wreck. You can wreck hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of how it goes with any monsters. Like when you get people clumped up, it's just not going to end well. I mean, you get a lightning strike, you get Wraith abducting someone and pulling them out away from the rest, then around a corner or something. So yeah, I think the open areas are definitely going to be a little bit more comfortable for the hunters to fight in. And we've got that door going down there leading into the mine. And there's a crate.
Yep, so right now the monster left the grotto and went into a transition area, and the transition area is
3 meats. So
did that one have 3?
Yeah, so that's really good to know, because that's a sizable snack. And that won't generate carrion birds, right? Or
no,
will
it will not.
Okay.
No. But it does, so when you're attacking it, it does make noise. So there is a tell still. There's still an audible tell for the hunters. Oh, I hear this banging going on. That's a food crate.
And since they're static, you know where they are. Exactly. So that's very cool.
Yeah, so there's, when we're designing these things, we always keep in mind both sides. You never want to weight something on one side or the other. You want to make it fair. This is the quarry. The previous round ended outside. This is one of the side rooms of the quarry that lead to it. One thing you'll notice as well is that, as they're going between these areas, it's a consistent, smaller tunnel leading into a big area, leading into a smaller tunnel leading into a big area. We liked the combat. I remember on some playtests we were testing Behemoth in here, and he caught us in a hallway, and it was so chaotic. Everybody lost sight of what their job was just because he's in your face, lava's going everywhere. It's crazy.
And everybody is watching and going, but we want to see it.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're very jealous right now.
I'm sure they
are. But he seems very at home in this map, and it's
very
disconcerting to see him come rolling around a corner. You guys will see that soon enough, I promise. But yeah, it's a good map for him. Clearly a good map for Kraken.
Well, and I was about to say, one of the interesting things about this map for Kraken is that we accommodated each of these areas to accommodate Kraken. We wanted him to be able to have this cool height advantage.
Another plant. Is that Matty O?
So as far as the plants and stuff go, we wanted to make sure that if there was some consistency with the maps. We didn't want to remove an element that people got used to in particular maps. So you still got to watch out for the megamouths. You still got to watch out for the carnivorous plants.
Well, it wouldn't be Evolve without some wildlife that's also out to get you, as well as the giant monsters. Exactly. Yeah, no, that's half the fun. Yeah, and you see people maybe not talking to each other as much, 2 people going to res someone, now they're all clumped together, Kraken can have a field day. Again, I know this isn't about this, but communication, always good, talk to your teammates, or you will be cracking food.
And especially when you're playing a new map, you want to, that level of communication really comes in handy, because you're experiencing this map at the same time all these other players are experiencing the map. So you might catch something that someone else might not caught. This ledge up here, this place where you can plant traps, this little nook where he might not see you. These little nuances that you may see that other players may not see will really help if you guys pick up the communication.
Yeah, and if anybody's like me, I have an atrocious sense of direction in real life, and that's exactly the same in games. It takes me a while to learn maps. I'm finally getting comfortable with most of the early ones that we released with Evolve. So, but I've played on this map quite a few times, and it feels really good. I like this map a lot.
One of the things that I'd like to point out about this map that we designed into it, I think let's see if the monster. Yeah, so the monster's about to hit it. So you'll notice this. I changed.
Let's go back to the monster.
The assault. That's okay. So if you ever see railroad tracks.
Yep, right there?
Yeah, exactly. If you see these railroad tracks circumference the inner circle of the mine, right?
Oh, okay.
They never branch out. There is one small area where they are, but they're disconnected and they don't have any relevance. But if you find these tracks, then you know if you follow them in one direction or the other, it's going to take you to the grotto or it's going to take you to the mine. Or if you're in the grotto, it'll take you to the quarry or it'll take you to the mine, that kind of thing.
Okay,
so
now
it's a reference point.
So when they pulled up the mini map there really briefly, they got was that the white circle in the middle?
No, the white circle in the middle is the objective. And then a little bit further out from that, it's kind of hard to see because the texture size of the mini map is kind of small. So representing little hash marks for a railroad track.
It's probably not as important when you're looking at your mini map.
Well, but it's represented on the mini map.
Okay.
That's one thing that we wanted to make sure was represented. I think the railroad tracks is kind of it's an integral part of navigation in the map. So definitely when you guys play this map, you have a leg up on the people that haven't seen this broadcast.
Helpful to orient yourself.
Exactly. Using those tracks will save your.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that a lot. With the streamers that we have, people sort of, with their teams, learning to name things, to refer to things like, oh, it's the Tyrant Pit, or like, oh, we're going to go to the down spaceship, and giving sort of a common language. And I think you've given players a lot of really great, interesting landmarks here that are unique to this map that people can refer to.
For example, the area that we're looking at now is the mine, and this is the wooden iconic mine that you see in all the pictures, the old-time miners and stuff. So when you see these wooden elements, if you could go to the monster real quick, because he's in an area that has a lot of these wooden elements, it's very easy to understand. If I see these wooden elements, I know I'm in the mine. If I see these concrete ore-like blocks, I know I'm in the quarry. If I'm in this watery area with stalactites and stalagmites, I know I'm in the grotto.
Yeah, and that makes it really easy to tell people where you are, because I know in some of the forest maps, I'm like,
oh yeah,
I don't know, unless I'm in like the wasteland, or this makes it super easy to orient yourself, which for somebody who's a complete map noob like myself is perfect.
Well, and you'll see that how as far as I can tell, the Kraken hasn't been inhibited by this map.
Right,
he can go to an area,
a flying character in a covered area.
It feels natural when you go into these areas that you just want to fly. But when you're transitioning, like he is right now, you're going through this transition tunnel. So he's walking. He knows he can't fly. So you're kind of using the elements of the map to your best advantage.
But forcing him through that small area means it's a smaller window for, Bucket to aim his
Exactly.
rocket.
And it slows him down a little bit because he's got to come down and he's got to walk,
And then he goes, all right, you're going to shoot at me, I'll back up, and good job killing that plant first support, well done. We didn't want to have another plant death.
It actually looks like all 4 hunters are up right now, and it's getting pretty close.
Yeah, this is not looking great for him right now.
But the thing is the mobile arena isn't up, so he's free to leave at any time, and there's lots of opportunities for him to immediately stealth and juke and jive and kind of double back and play cat and mouse with the hunters.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that, like, I've watched some other games played professionally, and you can usually kind of go, oh, well, they've got a pretty good lead by now, like, I think we can probably call it for so-and-so. Can't really do that in Evolve, which makes it really hard to cast.
A perfect example. The combat has now been divided between these 2 rooms.
Oh,
There's a doorway that's separating them.
The flamethrower, though, man. Oh.
The flamethrower is devastating.
Yeah, absolutely. And when Kraken is in those areas where he isn't able to get that height, that's good. A good hide player will take advantage of that with the flamethrower.
Does Monster have an in cap? Yeah, I think he has an in cap on everybody.
Yep. Yeah, everybody has.
And he's only stage 2, right?
1 strike, I think.
He's stage 2, right, Jess?
I think so. I'm trying to look at his back spines, but I can't see everything.
Yeah, that's exactly 2. What I use.
Yeah, I'm like, and I know the health pool gets bigger, but sometimes that's a little harder to judge.
Unfortunately, so the Tyrants are in this map, so if the monster wanted to, he could investigate the grotto and see if there are any elite Tyrants for
Right, because that's the health regen. Yeah, because he could really use some health regen right now.
Yeah, this area, so the mine is about verticality, and so this area of the map is really beneficial to Kraken because he has height advantage here. So he's in a good spot. He's not trapped by any means, but he's got to be careful. He's got to make sure he uses the map to his advantage.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I noticed when I was playing against Behemoth is like his rock wall is really great. Like in the grotto, you can block people off,
and it is a dead stop.
Yeah,
it is a dead stop.
So
you're not going anywhere.
I'm really looking forward to seeing the community's counters for that. Oh God, face checked. That was not good.
That was beautiful.
But saved by their partner, their teammates. Landing a great lightning strike though. We're seeing really good play in this game.
Got him. Got him.
Nicely done. Yeah, they're playing really well.
And so you see that height advantage actually worked to the Kraken because the Trapper couldn't see above that lip, and and the Kraken was just
waiting there, probably
waiting,
sniffed, knew exactly where she was.
Yeah, I really like this map because, and especially these two maps in general, these two DLC maps, they feel and play drastically different from the shift maps.
Yeah.
And it really kind of revitalizes the experience. You get to experience those butterflies of being, like are they on me? Like this map in general is kind of a close quarter combat map. So as a monster, you're always aware that the hunters are kind of like nipping at your heels.
Well, I think it plays to the fact that people who are playing this are going to be hopefully a little bit more accustomed to normal gameplay. So like we saw a minute ago, I don't know if people caught that, but the medic was trying to get somebody up, and there was a big pillar of rock in the middle, and the Kraken was on one side, and the medic just darted away to line of sight so that she didn't get hit.
Right.
And it's just sort of encouraging those good habits, juking and taking advantage of line of sight, using elevation change.
Everything you've used to build up your repertoire of gameplay, your chops in Evolve are used in these maps tenfold. To really master these maps is going to take some time to understand the differences between these maps and the ones they've been playing for the past month and a half or so. So like I said, the learning curve is for me, the learning curve on this map was much easier than the Foundry.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that's just because, Thomas and I designed the mine map, and Chris and Nick designed the Foundry map, so they're probably the opposite.
Yeah. I don't even know what it would feel like to be that familiar with a map. Like, I'm getting there a little bit, think there's sort of, that sort of extra level of having, made the damn thing. So that's really cool.
Yeah, when you're designing these maps, you become very familiar with pixels, like literal pixels. You can, drop me in anywhere in the mine, and you say, go to this spot, and I'll just clip through walls, blindly, and I'll know exactly where I'm at. But you put me in Foundry, and you tell me to go to Slagtown, which is what you're seeing on the splash. Well, I guess we're not on the splash screen yet, but
not showing splash screens. We don't want to give you all the secrets right now.
Well, when you go to Slagtown, that's a very distinct area of the map, and I wouldn't know how to get there from any particular part in the Foundry just because I wasn't in there 8 hours a day for however long it took us to make them.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was gonna ask. I don't have my cool little chat thing. I was wondering if Anna was pulling any. We have the wonderful Anna who was with me last week. What? Sorry, the voice in my ear is telling me things. But I was just, if you guys have any questions, I can try to have the voice of the wonderful Jess Dammers, who is our fearless producer, get us some questions. Aww.
Chat.
Are there any map-related questions? Since we have someone here who designs that stuff, take advantage.
Yeah, you can ask me about any of the shipped maps from the Evolve original game, DLC maps that you guys are seeing today.
Yeah, we get some people on the forums answering questions, talking about what they work on, but forums aren't really everybody's bag. So while we have Daniel here, take advantage, ask some questions, and we're happy to answer before we jump into talking about the Foundry, which is also quite different.
Yeah, and I was exactly about to say that. The first thing you'll notice when they jump in to start playing Broken Hill Foundry is that it's the aesthetics, the layout, everything about the map is 100% completely different from the mind map. And what's really cool is when we designed these 2 maps is we wanted to create 2 maps that were neighbors. We wanted to create them in tandem. We wanted to make 2 maps that were brother and sister,
right.
that had relevance to one another. So at any point, well, not at any point in the mind map, you have to be outside to see the Foundry. But when you're playing in the Foundry, you can look down and actually see the map you just played before,
cool.
which is really cool.
So we had a couple questions that people asked. The relay was located in the middle of the map. That's the big white ring that you guys kept seeing every time the mini-map was up. So we didn't get to see anybody go to stage 3, but hopefully we will with the Foundry map. But that's where the fight would sort of naturally come at stage 3, which makes sense.
Yeah, and that's something that we designed into all the maps, was a central location for the monster and the hunters to coalesce into at the end of, when they've had their brawls and the monsters finally reached stage 3. We wanted a central location that was easy for the hunters to get to contest, so that the monster had to actually fight for it.
Yeah.
So these maps have the exact same mechanic. The big button that you destroy is in the center.
And we did, real quick, we did address this, but, orbitals, dust tagging, still, Trapper Mobile Arena is still totally viable on the mind map, even though it's a lot underground. You just, it's like any map where there's going to be areas that work and areas that don't, and you'll see that really big, obvious blue line when you can throw stuff
and you guys were watching this, you only got to see about 10 minutes of gameplay, and so maybe you don't have a complete map of what it looks like in your head. But once you play this map, initially you might think, oh, I can't use the mobile arena everywhere. I can't dust tag everywhere. That's going to totally, completely unbalance everything. But once you kind of understand how you navigate the map and how easy it is to get from these big bubbles to the big bubbles, it really starts to shed light on how strategic it becomes to use those hunter items.
Yeah, so let's see. All right, so let's talk about this a little bit because we haven't talked about Foundry yet, and we're seeing all sorts of different things up on the screen. So there's a lot. This is Slagtown, right?
This is Slagtown. This is where the miners go to unwind.
Big old liquor sign right there.
Yeah, they go and gamble. They go and rest up. Their housing is located back here. It's basically a little community for the miners to come and relax.
Or it was before the monsters rolled through.
Decided to come through and wreck shop. Exactly.
Yeah, this place was booming like 20 years ago.
But as you can see, the aesthetic is completely different. This map is probably 90% man-made stuff and probably 10% natural, as opposed to the mine, which is probably I would say 75 natural, 25 man-made in the mine. So this one. What I like about this map is that it has a very clear language of where I can, ledge up on, or where I can base myself, or where I can plant traps. There's no guesswork on like this organic rock surface or this wall if it has a ledge on it or not. This map actually lends itself to be really, really readable really quickly, I think.
Well, I think this is the most city-like of any of the maps that we've had. So that's pretty cool. And someone asked in the chat if you ran into any problems designing a map with such small, like confined spaces.
So interestingly enough, this map that you're looking at right now is the smallest map that we have from edge to edge. I won't give away the dimensions because that's something that I think is important for the player to discover and figure out. But it's a much smaller map. It's a little bit more dense in the way that we've utilized assets, more alleys, more arena-like areas for you to have combat in. So this one is definitely smaller than the other ones. The mind map itself is probably on par with our average-sized shipped map. So that one still is the same footprint size, but because it's these bulbs, it makes it feel a little smaller, a little bit more intimate.
Yeah. So he's gonna stage up right next to this crate. So he's got a nice snack when he comes out.
The crates in Foundry are more prevalent. There's a lot more of these food crates in the Foundry than there are in the mine map.
And I think we'll hopefully see it if they give him a chance to eat here. But we had a question about how many sort of meats you would get out of a crate and if it's consistent. and I'm not entirely sure.
I thought it was 1 to 2, but we saw that we got a 3 out of it. So I believe the maximum is 3.
Yeah, but it might depend.
It'll depend on some areas have clusters of crates, like 2 or 3, and then some areas have just 1, or it could spawn 1, or it could spawn 3, or it could spawn 2. Based on the number it spawns is how many each one will give. So if there's a bigger cluster, each one will give less. If there's only one that spawns, it'll give more.
So
as the one
to
you saw,
reavers,
got 3,
if there's a bunch of reavers, they're worth 1 meat each, but if there's only 1, it's worth 3. So that hopefully answers that question from the chat. We had another question. We'll talk about that in between. Let's see. People are asking if there's new wildlife on these maps, and that isn't true. Is that correct?
That is correct. Whenever we do new content, we're always trying to push the bar. We're always trying to push the boundary. We definitely thought it would be cool if there was some kind of underground animal, that had a cool, unique ability or gave a different perk or something that was specific to the mine. It was definitely something that we wanted to do, but unfortunately we didn't have time to do that.
No. Maybe later on. All right, taking a big bite out of this 4-meat dune beetle as the hunters jump in on him. And it's just, these are really interesting spaces. I know you're not in lighting, but do you have some insight into how they approached lighting these different areas?
Yeah, lighting is something that's very integral to our game. In early development, when we decided to go dark, we pushed it really hard. We pushed the darkness really hard, and for a while it was successful because as the monster you're able to sneak and hide and do all these cool little monstery thingies. But as a hunter, it was kind of frustrating because even though you have a flashlight, that flashlight only illuminates a certain part